Here we are at the beginning of another riding season in the U.S., or I guess the end of the riding season if you're in the southern hemisphere. That puts us in motorcycle buying season, because aren't they all motorcycle buying seasons? Did you know motorcycles are like houses? Okay, well, they're not exactly like houses, but our desires for them kinda are. Afternoon all. Welcome back to Bike Like a Dog. Please do the like and subscribe thing before leaving today. This topic came to mind when a family across the street from us decided to move. Now, I hated it because it's a young couple with a couple of toddlers, and we just loved having them as neighbors. Anyway, they were moving because, well, they'd kind of overbought and were trying to downsize into something a little more affordable, a little more manageable, a little less maintenance, things like that. But that got me to thinking about the houses we buy. These days, there's just almost no such thing as a starter home, right? The stuff they're building is always bigger and better. Bigger house, bigger rooms, bigger yard, just bigger. When we're young, okay, kids live in their parents' houses. Duh, right? Before leaving to strike out on their own, chances are that house had some significant modifications or additions along the way. I know that for my house, my parents added on another bedroom, bathroom, and expanded the basement of the house that I lived in through high school. And then when I was in college, my parents moved to a bigger, better house. And that's kind of what we see, right? By the time kids leave home, their houses have been upgraded to a bigger house, or they've gotten a new house or two, and the new house is bigger, it's better, it's, and so forth. But when the kids move out, they don't want to move into a 2-bedroom, 1-bath cracker box starter home. They want the same 5-bedroom, 5-bath house on a full finished basement that they're leaving. In other words, they want now what it took their parents 20 or more years to achieve. I think motorcycles are much the same. Young people are getting in and seeing more experienced riders on leader bikes that they've grown into, and they want it now. Instead of starting out on a modest bike of 500 cc's or less, they want to go find an R6 on the used market because they saw this guy on one the other day and it looked cool. They see these biggest and best, these huge bikes, R1s, H2s, Hayabusas and stuff on the YouTube videos or on Insta or something like that, and those look so cool. And so that's what they want, as opposed to used to be before you had social media. You got on the bikes that everybody kind of was riding around, which are typically going to be smaller bikes than what you're seeing on YouTube. I gotta say, I don't run across a lot of R1s, H2s, and Hayabusas when I'm riding around, okay? Do you know why someone buying their first home doesn't need that 5-bedroom, 5-bath monster house? Because they don't realize how much they have to learn about owning a home. In other words, they don't know what they don't know. Vacuuming, dusting, mowing the lawn, trimming the bushes, raking the leaves, cooking, washes the dishes, putting away the dishes, cleaning the fireplace, cleaning the bathrooms, all 5 of them, and so forth. All the jobs that their parents were probably doing in their old home, now if they don't do them, they don't get done. A smaller domicile will allow them to learn about what it means to own a home. They'll learn to do basic maintenance like replacing faucets, painting, doing basic repairs around the home, fixing a running toilet and stuff. They'll learn how much it costs to get a house painted before it's a $40,000 job. They'll learn the things that are and are not important to them in a home. For example, I had knee surgery while living in a house with no bedroom or bathroom on the main floor where the kitchen was. It was a split level. My bedroom was on the bottom level. The kitchen and den with the TV and stuff was on the main level, and the only bathroom with a tub, and I had to do tub bath because I couldn't get my surgical incision wet. It was on the upper level. Yeah, since then, having a full bedroom and bath on the main floor is a priority in any house I buy. Doesn't have to be a master, but at least a guest room and a full bathroom with a tub. Now, my wife never had such surgery, and so she was fine with a master on the second floor in the first house we bought. Then we got a house with the master on the main, and she's already told me she will never go back. She's gotten spoiled. Likewise, learning on a smaller motorcycle introduces you to riding. You start understanding more about what you do and don't like. I discovered that I'm not particularly moved to get a big cruiser with footboards. It just doesn't really appeal to me. Nor am I the type to take a bike to track days so that I can learn to drag my knee through a high-speed corner. It just doesn't interest me. Now, an ADV bike that I can take out on BDR rides, that sounds a lot more fun to me. I could see wanting a touring motorcycle so that I could go, drive out through, through the west, out towards Monument Valley and, some of those places. But even so, I am also learning that I should start on something smaller than the BMW R1300 GS Adventure. Now, I may want one of those someday, but I know enough now to know that it would be too much for me at my level of experience. I did not know that before I started riding. I might have gone and bought one of those because I just didn't know that I couldn't handle it. I didn't know what I didn't know. When you look at the number of motorcycles owned in the U.S. versus the number of people licensed to ride, there is a huge discrepancy, especially when you figure that a large number of licensed riders have more than one bike. We're talking about a number of riders licensed that's exponentially higher than the number of motorcycles out there. That means there are an awful lot of licensed riders who don't have motorcycles. Why? Well, I've spoken to a few riders who said they got a big bike, had an accident, never rode again. Got a big bike, got really scared, never rode it because it scared them too much, and eventually sold it because there was no point in keeping it if they weren't riding it. I had an accident on a 451cc bike. I was able to slow my bike probably to where I was only going about 15 or 20 by the time I hit the car. Had I been on a bigger bike, a leader bike, something like that, had I been going faster on a heavier bike, that could have been a harder impact, right? It could have been more serious, simply because I would have been on a bigger bike and had less control of it. While I was in the Yamaha Champions Riding School, I was surprised when the instructors talked about how safe racers are when racing, like, the MotoGP guys and stuff like that, because they got good training, good machines. They knew how to ride the machines. They know good gear, and they have good gear when it goes wrong. They were on a track with a large runoff area and few obstacles other than other bikes and riders. We think those riders dragging their knees and elbows in MotoGP are at incredible risk, but the instructors insisted they're actually riding within their limits and the bike limits, which means their risk is actually fairly small. Now comes the parental style advice. You have your whole life to ride. Let's make sure you're able to ride for a long time. Don't overbuy when you're getting your first bike. If you're going to overbuy, make it on gear and training. Take the time to learn properly. You'll derive far more enjoyment down the road, literally. You'll be a better rider on any machine you throw a leg over. You're more likely to know your limits and ride within them, while learning and expanding those limits as you go. You'll be upgrading from one bike to the next, but now you'll know what you want your next bike to be, because you've learned that as you've ridden. And eventually, you'll be able to ride anything you want, safely. And that's what I want you to do now, is to go ride safely and have a good week. Y'all like and subscribe before you go. Appreciate you being here. Until next time, so long.